I am Araceli, a wealth advisor, real estate investor in the United States and Canada, and creator of Wealthy Women in Real Estate. Every week, I meet with Colette, a real estate broker and a real estate investor in Canada. We come together to talk about all things real estate investing and how to increase your wealth. Join us. Welcome, everyone. This is Araceli, transition wealth advisor and real estate investor in the US and Canada. And I'm here today with my partner, Colette. And Colette, can you introduce yourself before I get started with the episode today?
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rabba. I am a residential real estate broker. I have a little bit of a sore throat, so please, I apologize for my bad clearing of my throat. I'm probably going to do a couple times today. But yes, I like working in the GTA West, and Araceli and I like to do the show because we love talking about real estate and everything that goes on with real estate, investing, short-term, long-term investing, being a silent partner, being a landlord, whatever you want to talk about, this is what we do. That's why we love doing the show. So we're here for you.
That's correct. And today, actually, this episode is all about you, Colette, because we want people to know who Colette is more on a personal level. And it is interesting. Her story is very different than mine. And that's what I want you to know, that no matter where you're coming from, being a real estate investor is not about where you came from, but where you're going.
Yeah. And at what age do you start being an investor? So I wish I started when I was younger.
I know. But you know, the one thing that I know is that it doesn't matter when you decided to do it. Just do it if somehow, some way you decided to do. I never wanted to be an investor, but just the circumstances happened that I started. So tell me, when did you have the desire to become an investor, Colette?
Okay, well, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, go back as much as you can.
Yeah, because so I come from a really creative background. I went to graphic design. I went to school for graphic design. Then I went to school for interior design. I always liked that. So it was always a progression of being in a creative field. And I really
so before you move on to anything else, can you tell exactly what is an interior designer? What do they do?
Sure. So interior design or decorating, so there's a little bit of a difference, but basically, let's just say a decorator will, come into your house and say, if you would like to have a more cohesive look, and it's a little bit different than staging. So people, I think, are more familiar with staging, where you dress the house to make it look light and bright and modern, and so it appeases to very many buyers. So people want to have that, no clutter, very nice streamlined kind of look. So usually, I want to say normal people at a certain level, they don't hire an interior decorator because they think I can just buy a couch myself. I can just go and, make my bed myself. I can buy drapes myself. I can do this. But when you see a room that's all put together cohesively, and it doesn't have to all be matching, but it's nice when you have someone to help you with that. So I did a lot of kitchens. I did a lot of bathrooms when I was in interior design. And the difference between interior design and decorating is more surface things, like curtains and furniture, and design is more about designing the space. So if you go into somebody's kitchen and say, I don't like where the fridge is, can you move it? Let's say the bathroom doesn't work. I need to have the bathtub a different way. So that's really the difference. And interior designers might even take down walls. Of course, they'll hire professionals to make sure the wall is not load bearing first, but they can design the house or the room around the space that's available or not available. So if they say, let's open up the whole, if you want to, let's say open concept, and you can take these walls down. So that's your first step, is with the designer, and then they work with the proper people, like, the ones that architects, if you need an architect, if you need an engineer to make sure you take the walls down. That's your first stop, and then it continues on with that.
Yeah, I always try to get the distinction, because the way that I see interior designers is that it is how is the flow of the work that is going to be done in that room, right? Like
exactly.
When you're cooking, you know, you don't want to have things very far away. If you have the stove
exactly.
and the, you know, the sink and the fridge, right? Depending on how big the kitchen is as well, right?
Right, and that's what I really like doing. I really like doing kitchens. Kitchens was my favorite when I had a kitchen or bathroom, to say, you know, this layout doesn't really work. When you start moving around plumbing, it's highly recommended you hire someone to help you with it, because you have to know how the joists are running. You have to know where the plumbing is. You have to not put, you know, really, you shouldn't be putting plumbing on the outside of your house. But now with, you know, more modern buildings and with the proper insulation, it's okay. But it's really something that's ingrained in my head from a long time ago, how houses were built. And because we're cold here, this is a very cold country, you don't want to put plumbing, for obvious reasons, on your outside walls. So all these things you really have to think about when you design a house, or when you decorate or design a room. So that was sort of, I did that in my, I want to say in my 30s. And then I started doing staging for people. And then I met a whole bunch of real estate agents. I couldn't really believe that these real estate agents weren't giving the service to their clients. So I was actually working with one that I said, I would really like to buy an income property. Will you help me? And she said, yes, of course. And then we would go and look at houses, and she would be showing me these houses that needed so much work and renovation. And I said, so why are you showing me this house? My cash flows, I'm going to have to spend, you know, whatever. I would point out at her, that's $10,000. That's going to be $40,000. That alone is $5,000, a small thing like that. And this was years and years ago, before I had my license. She got mad at me and she said, well, why don't you just get your license yourself? You seem like you know what you're talking about. So I said, oh, okay, if that's how you feel. And I did. I got my license. My kids were a little bit older at this point. And I thought, what a great service to give to other clients that are looking not just for income property, but for houses, to say, okay, let's go look at the house from that point of view, to say, oh, and you know, my clients laugh at me because I'll take my phone out and I'll take pictures of the joists in the basement. They're like, what are you doing? I go, oh my God, the foundation is so amazing. I haven't seen a house like this. Or, you know, I get excited about the structure.
Yeah.
And then I'll go and I'll say, see that brick? You know, this is what it means. And then like, they think like, who are you?
Or they think that you're crazy.
Yeah, they think, why are you getting excited about? I go, oh, you know why you want this house is because of this. Or you want to stay away from that house because of that. So that, to me, even before we call a home inspector, I can give them that information that is, you know, I don't want to say, oh, it's 100% for sure, but I have a pretty good eye because of my background to say, these are the things. I would never buy this house, I'm sorry, because of this and this and this. Uh-huh. And we talk about it on other shows. Foundation, huge. Roof, it's huge. Like all these big expenses, especially how much houses are these days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you know, and I know you know this about me. I don't like talking about myself, but I like talking about education. I like talking about sharing my knowledge with people. Mm-hmm. So really, if you come out with anything, that's what I really want you to know. Like, I get excited. Like even the way I'm talking about it, I love houses. I wish I had more houses myself. And that's what happened. So years ago, when I got my license, I started to look for income properties. I actually didn't end up buying anything at that point because I thought, I don't have enough knowledge. Believe it or not, even back then, I said to myself, you're not ready. You don't have enough knowledge yet. I didn't know anything about being a landlord. I didn't know anything about flipping. So you get really nervous, and I was married to a person who was very nervous, if I can say it nicely.
Cautious.
And cautious. No fault of his own, because I would be, oh my God, let's do this. Oh, let's, get all excited.
It's your personality, right? Like your personality is more like, okay, let's go do it.
But it's the faith that I have in myself to know I would never do anything to harm my family. And even saying that, I know many people that have had to sell their income properties because they weren't making money, because they put their own house up as collateral. And that was very, very scary at the time when they didn't have enough income to support that. So knowing that, and we might have dodged some bullets, but I don't think so. I think I honestly, I take all the blame to not have not purchased at the time that we had the means to do it. Financially, we would have been in a much better place today if we did. Now, saying that, and this is the important thing too, even saying that now in today's market where, you can't buy a house for under $1 million in the GTA, think about in 10 years from now. They're not going to be less than $1 million. There's no way. No way. So when you think of it that way, you should have a little bit of faith in the system too. And you always have a plan B. That should be, get a tattoo somewhere. What's the plan B? Yeah. Because that makes you feel more confident too. Right? So that's another thing I offer my clients is, listen, if things don't work out, there's always a plan B. There's always something else you can do. Yeah. And to be financially secure. Yeah. In this day and age, it's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what happened. I didn't buy my first income property till 2018. And I had to do it without my husband being okay with it. Because this was after years and years of fighting about it and, having this goal, having this desire for so long. And saying, you know what, I would really like to do this, and I'm not going to ask you for any money. I'm not going to have our family suffer. I will do it all on my own financially. I knew exactly how long it was going to take me to renovate. I knew exactly how long it was going to take me to generate income. And even if I was running at a loss, I still could manage the payments myself. So that's the difference. That's the difference. And then, so now fast forward, it's been a few years, and that's my vacation property. So it wasn't a traditional full-time tenanted property too. I had to do it. I had to do the numbers. And I think that's also why I waited so long, because I wasn't happy with the numbers. The numbers weren't good enough for me. And that was very hard. So honestly, I'm my worst client. Very hard on myself. I was tough.
I think we all are a little bit harsh on ourselves, because you really are measuring yourself against somebody else that is a little bit higher than you are, and sometimes that's very hard for people. Yeah. And that is, you mentioned a couple things. First of all, that depending on who you surround around, whoever you have around you, that's how it's going to propel you, that is going to help you go to the next level. Because if you've never done it, if you've never bought an investment property, it's very daunting, it's very scary, right, to do it. But if you have somebody that is helping you, saying, yeah, let's do it, let's try it, right? But if you have somebody that is not helping you and said, no, we don't want to do it, then it takes you longer, because now you're doing it for both of them. Right? Like,
well, you second guess yourself too, and you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to put my family at risk. I don't want to be, see, I told you so. I never want, like, that was the whole thing where I never wanted somebody to point the finger at me and say, I told you so. I told you this wasn't going to work. So the pressure was very, very high for me too. And now I'm in the industry too at this point. Yep. I have been working as a realtor. I represented myself, which was not a great idea either at the time, but I also did it because I wanted to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did it because this was a vacation property. I bought this house has taught me so much more than if I would ever serve a client. I would have never had this experience. I would have never had the same experience. So here I am, by myself in the throes of things. The house was built in 1886. never saw a foundation like that before. In a whole different area, I'm out of my comfort zone. It's not in Mississauga or the GTA even. There was a septic system.
Yep.
There was a barn. So all these things that I didn't have any experience with, I just said, let's go. Let's do this. And if it doesn't work out, I got my plan B. I'm not scared. And my plan B is still not in effect. Knock on wood. Thank you. But it's been funny over the few years of how things change and how, I like to say, serendipitous things. Things happen for a reason. You meet certain people for a reason. They help you in ways that you never imagined. And that's what I love about buying houses too, that you don't know who your neighbor is until you buy, and you get to sit there and talk to them and knock on their door and say hi and introduce yourself. Those people can change your life. That's a whole other story, but
well, yeah.
You know, so to get back into why I got into real estate. So firstly, I didn't think that there were people that were really supporting their clients, number one. Number two, I thought I could do a better job because I had all this knowledge. Mm-hmm. Number three,
you also have the like for it, right?
Yeah. So my background, so the eye for it. So I know about structure. I know about, you know, how houses work. I'm also handy. You know that. So, and I get embarrassed sometimes too, because I just recently at my vacation property, I had to rebuild the deck. I didn't have to do it myself, but I chose to. And the funny thing was, I don't want to tell anybody. Well, now obviously I'm telling everybody, because I don't want people to think like, oh, why didn't you just hire somebody?
It's just not about that, Colette. You see, for real estate investors, I love doing things myself.
Right.
If I hire somebody, it's sure. But there is certain, I don't know, like
it's
I
the
get
pride.
excited about it. It's a pride that you're doing it yourself.
It is, right.
And it's a good workout too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a great, yeah. And of course, you know, I had a couple scratches and scrapes on my hands, but honestly, just to get your hands dirty and to feel like this house means so much to me because it is my first income property. And it was something that I still like to learn. I'm physically capable of doing it. And I want to see what's going on behind the scenes. So I got to, you know, I took the deck apart last fall. I could see what the foundation was like. I could see like it was right up against the house. I could see how the house was built, because later on, if there's something that I have to repair, I have that in my mind. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
So all these little things, even if you're not an investor, if you just buy a house for yourself, these are the things you can't just move in and say, okay, hands off, I'm not going to do anything.
No.
For example, the dryer vent. So I have a little dryer vent, you know, the ones that have the flaps. Mm-hmm. I heard something in the dryer at my house here in Mississauga. Heard something in the dryer. It's a bird. Bird got in. What happened?
No.
I go outside. I look at the vent. One of the flaps is gone. So it's like a big hole. So they just want to build a nest in there. It's nice. So things like that. So even as a homeowner, to do those small things, I think a handyman costs anywhere between $50 and $100 an hour. So that's at least a 2-hour job to take the old one off. It's siliconed on, or you know, whatever way they put it on, to take it off, unscrew it. You know, you have to buy the other part, put that on, you know, make sure it's okay. So for me to save a little bit of money that way, I can do it. It's really not a big deal if you choose to do it or not.
Yeah, of course. I like to do the same thing myself. Like, you know, every year I go to my house and look around. If something is not good, I'll fix it up myself. Go clean up a little bit and so on, right? Like, it's just regular maintenance. And I think it doesn't matter if it's your principal resident or not, but it's just regular maintenance that you have to do. And things are going to deteriorate if they're outside, right?
Right. And if you think of income properties and think, okay, every time there's a little something that I have to do and I have to hire someone, property managers are like between 10 and 18% now, I heard. So if I can go and do a small thing here and there, even
Yeah, especially if you have only one property, it's not
right.
bad,
So
right?
yeah, so all these things, and I remember when my husband and I bought our first house, we always kept aside, I think it was between $1,000 and $2,000 a year for improvements. So when we talk about real estate and how do you force appreciation, or how do you keep things up, this is something that everybody should be doing. We put an air conditioner in one year, which was more than $1,000 at the time. But these are the things that every time you do something like that, it will pay off.
We start talking, and somehow, some way, we always end up talking about houses, right?
But it has to do with.
I do.
It's still about me.
Yeah.
Because I'm sharing my knowledge.
I want to know a little bit more about what are your hobbies? Tell me about it. I know about you.
I'll tell you, but again, about my work, that's how passionate I am about my work, because then when I do go show houses to people, I tell them all this. So our showings are actually an hour long because I talk. Yeah. And I say, this is what you have to look out for. This is what, there's so much knowledge to know in a house. And there's sometimes you'll walk into a house and there's something on the wall and you say, what is that? I'll probably know what it is. Most realtors don't. So I just want to say it's important to hire a realtor that knows these things.
Absolutely. So especially if you're going to be doing fix and flips, you really want to know before you're actually putting the offer what you're getting yourself into. So that is very important.
Yes.
And if it's not, even if you're going to buy for yourself, then you still want to know, right? Because if there's something that is going to cost you a lot of money in the long term, right?
Yeah, and I'm not claiming that I know everything. There's some, actually, if I hire a home inspector and they teach me something, I'm thrilled. I'm very happy to hear what they have to say. Hasn't happened in a long time. But when they do, it's good.
That and contractors can also teach you quite a lot. So
yes, yeah. So if you have the right contractor, and
so are you gonna tell me about your hobbies now?
Yes, sure. Okay, what are my hobbies? So I actually, this, and again, it's a little embarrassing. Sometimes I'll drive down the street, and I'm not really doing this for money. I'm doing it as a hobby for myself. I'm very passionate about having people not throw out things that are reusable, especially furniture. So if there's something on the curb that I feel can either have a new life put into it, or it can be donated and somebody else can use it. I'm not using it every time, but if I see something on the curb and I pick it up, I throw it in my car, I take it home, I clean it, I take a look at it. If it's in good shape, sometimes it's in the dark. I don't even see what I'm picking up. So I just take a chance. I look at it the next day. I don't pick a lot of upholstered furniture because of bed bugs and other stuff. It's hard to upholster. I'm not a big reupholsterer. I have done a couple where I've sent it out to get reupholstered, but I love doing that. I love taking wood furniture, because the other thing too is I find older furniture is built so well. Yeah. And it's solid wood. It's not veneer. It's not particle board. It's not put together. Yeah. If you have the time, that is kind of like the projects that I like to do. I wish I had more space to do it, right? Because it could be a little messy. Oh, I have lots of projects. Sanding and cutting. It becomes a little bit messy, so you need a little bit bigger space. But you've seen the wall that I built with all the pallets that I did. Right. And it was a little challenging because I didn't have a lot of space. But my favorite thing is your spice cabinet. So Araceli opened up the wall in between some wall joists, and she made this spice cabinet, and it's behind a mirror. So when you walk into her house, you think, oh, look at this beautiful mirror. But it's fantastic. Things like that, where you have that time, because I think our schedules are similar. When you have clients and you're busy, you don't touch that stuff. Yep. But then you also have downtimes. I have closings coming up. I don't have a lot of active clients sometimes in the year, and I get to do those fun projects. And it's something that, thrills me to do it. And then when people come over, and again, it's pride too, where you go, oh my God, look what I did. And people are like, you know what? Sometimes, Colette, I try to look for things
already made, and there nothing would fit. Nothing
Right.
would be exactly what you want, right? Or this the size, the shape, all of it. You got to do it custom because you have only so much space, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's the funny thing too. When I see, you know, we're both on Instagram. We both like to see photos of what other people are doing. And a lot of the times I save them. I save all these pictures. And then after a while I think, oh my gosh, why was I so impressed by that? It's pretty simple. It's a pretty easy idea to redo it.
But you know what is simple to you and it's simple for me? Because I said, well, that's easy. Let's just take this, that.
Yeah.
Some people would say, oh my God, I would never do anything like that. I have no idea how to do it.
It's right. I know. So anyway,
I've been taking things apart since I was a baby. Really. Like, my dad is a mechanic. And ever since I grew up there, so I was taking things apart.
But you're also an engineer. Your background is engineering.
That's why I went to engineering school. So.
Right. But that's the difference. So like you don't have to be an engineer. So I grew up in a household where everything was done for everybody. So my dad, he's an entrepreneur, but he always hired people to do every little small thing in the house, fix the plumbing, do this, do that. So we were allowed to be more creative in the space growing up. And my siblings aren't really doing, I have one sibling that's doing something creative in his job. But I think all of us we all have that kind of little bit of tinkering, if you want to call it that, or we all like to create things or to be creative. And my kids are both very creative too. So I know there is something hereditary in me about the creative side.
I think it's the environment, Colette, because you were, encouraged to be that way.
No, I wasn't.
No, but they let you do it in the environment that you grew up.
Not really. See, that's the interesting thing. No.
So how did you end up being like that?
I think out of necessity. So after, after I met my husband when I was very young, I got married at 24. So I think and I remember the first time I switched out a sink was in his apartment. So my husband, when I met him, he went away for a week or something. I said, oh, I'm going to surprise him. And I didn't talk to the landlord. I didn't do anything. I said, I'm going to buy him a new vanity and I'm going to put it in myself. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought, okay, why not? And then, I painted, oh my gosh, those poor apartments. I think we were in 2 different apartments. So after the second apartment, I actually moved in with them to another. And I remember we did the flooring, we redid the vinyl floor, we painted all the kitchen cabinets. I can't imagine going in there now what it looks like. If it's still like that, this is like 30 years ago. But still, this is our first little foray in renovating.
No, Colette, a lot of people wouldn't do that. I would do it, right? But other people wouldn't do it. It's amazing, right?
Right. I'm improving the property for the landlord. So I want to enjoy it, but I also want to do it for the landlord. And of course, after I said to the landlord, hey, listen, I just want to let you know I swapped out because it was a pedestal sink and we put in a cabinet. Are you okay with that? They're like, oh my God, yeah, of course. Thank you. So stuff like that, I highly recommend you ask the landlord first. Yes, because they also will probably pay for it. They'll probably pay for the cabinet, and then if you feel like you know what you're doing with the plumbing, they don't want you to damage the property. That's the only thing. So please check with them first before you do anything crazy like that. Anyway, so that was like over 30 years ago. So that's how I started getting that taste of saying, why not?
And I think there is something about when you create something that it gives you some kind of pride.
Of course.
It is for me. Like, I love doing, it's kind of like meditation for me. When I start working on it, I get so immersed into measuring things, things fit properly.
No, that's not like me at all. I just want to get it done. It's a big job and I want to get this done and the end, and that's it. So yeah, but that's the thing. So out of necessity, but also out of interest, where, what was I thinking when I was 24, 25? I don't know what I was thinking. I thought just, hey, why not? Why not do it? And that sort of led into when we had our first house, we did a whole bunch of stuff. We renovated the second house we bought. I gutted the whole house completely. So that technically was
that's a big job. That's a really big job.
Honestly, that first house, I didn't do it myself. I hired a contractor because it was such a big job. We touched everything, 2 bathrooms, the kitchen, the flooring pretty much everywhere in the house. I moved a closet. I changed the layout of a bathroom too. So all that. So that's when I was in interior design. That's when I started. So sort of
Well, you already had now the knowledge to be able to do it properly, right?
Yeah, but and so that went on. Very happy to do it. We lived in that house, I think, for about 7 years, and then I said we need a bigger house, so we moved to the house that I'm currently in now. And I haven't done any renovation in this house at all because it was a brand new house, so I didn't have to. But you don't think my brain doesn't shut off. I want to do 500 different projects in the house. I want to raise the ceiling. I want to do crazy stuff like that. I know I'm not going to do
so much time. And also, this is the one thing that we tell you. Like, if you over improve, then you might not get that money back.
Right.
It's not necessary unless the house is really, really old. Then do it. But in this case, the house is relatively new.
Yeah.
And it just, I would like to have higher ceilings, but.
Okay, and this is structure.
Yeah.
This is getting into structure now. So there's no way. I mean, I'm going to change the roof trusses to make my coffered ceiling.
Yeah, no.
Like, that's just insane. But this is the thing. That's what gets us going to say, okay, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said I didn't do any renovation. I did. I actually put in a basement apartment so I could afford to live here and rent out the basement. So I did have to renovate slightly to have, a stove plug, to have the walls finished and the ceiling. The basement wasn't finished when we bought the house. So all these things you do have to improve on. I mean, it's not like you're not doing nothing, but
just make sure if you don't know what you're doing, to hire the proper contractor for it. Because sometimes it might seem like a simple job, but it may not be, especially if you have to put electrical.
Or plumbing. Electric, plumbing, don't touch it.
Those two are very tricky, so just get somebody to do it that knows what.
Okay, and the one last thing I have to say about work. This is something that I have clients talk, like I think this is one of the most repeated questions I get when I help buyers buy an older house. And it doesn't have to be an older house. It's a house that's already been built. So when I say older house, so a resale home, not a brand new house from a builder. The question I get asked the most is, can I put a bathroom in the basement? And where can I do it and how can I do it? And I want to say 98% of the time, I can tell you how to do it. Without an inspector, without a builder, to give you the rough idea. This is where you do it. You're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that. But you can do it. And I want to say maybe 1 or 2% of the time you can't do it. And that's usually...
A lot of the newer construction that I see, they already have the roof in for a bathroom.
Yes, but some of them don't.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but there's always plumbing somewhere. The plumbing has to go down. You have to have a stack somewhere to say, okay, I can tie into this, or you're going to have to break the concrete, Anyway, we're going off topic again. But this is the thing. I get so excited about stuff like that because it's improving the house and it's improving the amount. It's improving you living there, obviously, if you're going to use the basement, but also resale. You don't think on that listing you have an extra bathroom, it's going to tell you you're going to make more money?
Yeah, absolutely. Bathrooms and kitchens, those are the two things that you want to touch on.
And now, second suites.
Yeah.
If you can get a second suite in the basement, it's going to raise the value of the house, right?
Especially now. Well, Colette, thank you for telling us a little bit about your story. That you can see how Colette is very passionate about it. And if you are lucky enough to hire her as your realtor, she will do a super job about getting you a property for yourself or an investment property. So you get lots of knowledge attached to her. So.
And selling too. Don't forget, selling the property. If you need help, I do everything. I'll help you with the stager. If you need to get rid of, you have to declutter first. I'll help you with all of that stuff. So don't think that just because I talk about, you know, renovations and things like that, selling houses, it's there's part of that as well. You probably need repairs. You probably need to fix something. If you want to renovate and modernize your house before you sell it, this is perfect. I don't charge for that, you know, to give you that advice.
Exactly. And the one thing that the advice that I can give people is that if you know that you're thinking about selling, you need to speak to Colette as soon as possible, even if it's next year, because you can start doing those improvements a little bit at a time and you don't have to be out of pocket. Like, oh my God, we're selling next month. Oh my God, let's do all of these at once.
Right, exactly. No, and you can, thank you for saying that. That's very important because things do take time, especially now when there's a backup in, you know, the supply chain. I hate saying supply chain. Everybody hears that, but it's a reality. So sometimes you can't get parts. Sometimes you can't get product.
Or people.
You get it. And the shipping takes forever for it to actually get here. So all these things, you absolutely, thank you very much for saying that. Even if you're looking at selling in an hour, or in a year, you gotta call me. I don't know if I can do it in an hour, but you know, whatever you need.
And the thing is, one of the things also as well is at least you get to enjoy a little bit of that if you're going to be improving it. I see many people that they're going to sell their house. Oh, now we're going to do all of this work. Now they're leaving in 2 months and
it's
somebody
true.
else is going to enjoy it. So
I know it is. You should really enjoy the house that you're in when you're in it. So absolutely. Thank you so much for interviewing me. If that was sort of an interview.
Well, I wanted to find more about your personal life, but we always end up going to the same direction, and that's what the two of us love this. And
right, because it's so part of our lives. Like we eat, sleep, and breathe real estate. Like that's something that, and finances, and to know that. Like this is exactly what Araceli was saying. If you're interested in renovating before you sell, you need your finances. You got to figure out where you're going to get the money to do that stuff.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah. Sorry, I don't know. What do you want?
No, this is good. This is good. You know,
I'm allergic to mushrooms. How about that? I want to teach you something new. I can't eat mushrooms.
Okay, but one thing that I wanted you to say is I know you do pottery.
Not very much.
Yeah,
I don't have time.
I love that because it's very creative as well, and that you can do many different things that are very like personalized, I guess, right?
Yeah, but and you know what? It's sad. I really don't do pottery anymore. I don't. It takes a lot of time because you have to make something, and then you have to wait, and it has to dry, and then you have to put it in the kiln and fire it, and then you have to take it out, and then you have to glaze, and then you have to fire it again. So the process is very long. And if you're not a production potter, you're not doing it every day.
Yeah.
Like things would dry on me and then I would have to start all over again. So I love it. I wish maybe when I retire, I'll do it. I'll go back to it. But you know, for now, it's heartbreaking. I'm sorry. I wish I had more time to do it. But you know what? I'm fine. I'm fine with not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll take a class in the fall or something like that when I have a little bit more time. But honestly, if it's something that I'd much rather do something to either give to someone else. That's what I really liked about pottery, was I would give away a lot of it because I didn't like anything that I made. I didn't think it was very good.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, maybe one day.
Well, we learned a few things about you, and as always, it's always very nice talking to you. And one thing as well that you get from Colette is that she's very friendly and she's very entertaining. So
it's true. It's true. Yeah, so, I embarrass myself sometimes.
Lots of things, right? So with the package.
Thank you
that
for
Colette
saying.
has. So thank you, Colette, for being here and sharing with us a little bit about what you do, which is a lot about houses. And you know, I love your personality, that you're very, you know, forward and passionate about what you do, and that is very important when you are doing your job. So I think that
thank you.
You know, whoever hires you is very lucky to have you as a realtor, because you do not only the transaction, but all of the other things that are around, and that is the value that you bring. So
thank you.
thank you so much for talking to us and tell us more about you. And
thank you.
See you guys next week. Thanks, Colette.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you for being here on the show. Please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when there are more shows available. And if you would like to have more information on how to start investing in real estate, please visit my website at www.aracelihernandez.com. Thank you.